Friends, how's it going? Welcome back to Sam's Home Kitchen, where I bring to you budget-friendly recipes with sustainability in mind. Today we're making another childhood classic from my wife's upbringing. It's an Aussie 90s classic. It's cheap and cheerful. It's nostalgic. It's something that's got warmth to it. We're making pasties today. It's like the Indian samosa. It's protein, it's vegetable wrapped in carb. It's like little pockets of deliciousness. And I know the classic and easy way is to just go buy puff pastry and you'll be done in half an hour. But it wouldn't be a Sam's Home Kitchen recipe if we don't make the pastry from scratch, right? So we're going to make everything from scratch, including our shortcrust pastry. So if that sounds good to you, keep watching and let's get cooking. To start us off, we're going to make some shortcrust pastry. Always work with the scale. We want 2 parts flour and 1 part cold butter. So I measure out 200 grams of flour. Just some ordinary plain flour will do the trick. Next, butter. Make sure it's cold and solid, straight from the fridge. Instead of using a food processor, I've got a technique to share with you that will allow us to make short crust without any machines. Get a box grater and grate our cold butter into little strings. This is mimicking how food processors blitz up butter to combine with flour and ultimately create little pockets of butter in our pastry. Once we grate half the weight of flour in butter, so 100 grams, clean up the grater a bit using flour to get all of the butter off. Gently toss up the butter and flour to ensure that each string of butter is coated with flour. We want to break up any butter chunks if they start to stick together. And after that, we trickle in a small amount of cold water in a couple of stages. One hand mixing, the other hand adding water. For no obvious reasons, just to show off that you have good hand-eye coordination. We want just enough water to help us form a dry and shaggy dough. Pour onto your bench and use a bench scraper to bring everything in to turn it into a dough. Try not to overwork the dough as we want to maintain the butter and flour separation for the short crust. Once the dough sticks together, I pull out a piece of cling wrap that I saved from my lunch sandwich and wrap the dough up to allow better moisture redistribution across the dough. Because we're working with butter, we don't want it to warm up too much and just end up melting through the entire dough. Put the dough into the fridge to rest to maintain the integrity. Let rest for at least 20 minutes. While the dough is resting, we can get on with the pasty fillings. My winter garden is thriving. The silver beets have come back to life and they are a fantastic spinach substitution and super versatile. I picked a couple of stems, give them a good rinse to get rid of the dirt. On the chopping board, I separate the leafy part with the stem. The two have different texture and different cooking time, where the leaves wilt pretty fast, while the stems are hardy. So I chop the leaves into bigger chunks and the stems into smaller sections so they will cook at a more similar rate. Into the mixing bowl we used earlier for the dough, so there's one less piece of dishes to do. Next, carrots. Nothing fancy here. Cut in half, into slices, strips, and then into cubes. Same deal, add it into the mixing bowl and set aside for now. And then, onions. Thinly slice the onions but leave the ends intact. A couple of horizontal cuts, and then into dices. Set aside into the bowl. We do the same for potato, into slices, strips, and then cubes. These veggies are just what I have in the fridge. For an easier version, you can totally do frozen peas, carrots, and corns. For the protein, I'm using some chicken breast. Butterfly the chicken to get an even thickness throughout. Cut into strips, and then into cubes. The goal is to have the fillings of the pasties more or less a very similar consistency with each bite. So try to aim for similar cube sizes. For seasoning, I added a chicken stock cube. Mixing with some water, break the cube up and add to the filling mixture. A little sprinkle of flour to help retain moisture, along with salt and pepper to season. To add more dimension to the filling, I added some homemade garlic salt and some cumin. Once done, give it a very good mix to have the seasoning evenly distributed. At this point, the dough should be well rested. Dust the workbench with some flour and we can take the cold dough out. Start with some pressing motion with a rolling pin to flatten the dough. give it a slight workout to stretch the dough out into about 3mm thickness. Once again, it's important to make sure that we don't overwork the dough so we can retain as much of the butter strips in the dough to help create layers. With 200 grams of flour and 100 grams of butter, it should give us 3 by 3, which gives us 9 squares. Cut the dough sheets into even pieces and distribute our fillings across 9 squares. Try to fit in as much as humanly possible into each pasty without breaking the pastry. For each square, bring one corner over to the other diagonal corner to make it a triangle shape. Make sure there's a little bit of pastry overlap along the edges so we can seal them. While filling, use your thumbs to finesse a little bit to push your fillings in and make sure that they stay intact in the triangles. Grab a fork and use, the forky part to press along the edges for the pastry to be sealed up. Push any escaping fillings back into the pastry as you do so. Don't let anything run away. Load them all up onto a baking sheet lined with reusable baking paper. Score a few cuts across the pasties to let steam escape so the pastry stays crispy. Optionally, do an egg wash on the pasties to give it that golden, beautiful color. But eggs are so expensive these days, so I opted for milk wash. Once all done, send them into the oven for some really nice sauna. Oven preheated on fan force at 180 degrees Celsius. Cook for about 10 to 15 minutes or until the interior reaches 70 degrees Celsius to make sure chickens cook through. Look at these little beauties. The cost breakdown is around the screen here. Per pasty costed us 21.8 cents to make. Alright, and there we have it. That is our chicken pasty all done here. My kitchen, this is how I imagine an Aussie grandma's kitchen or Aussie grandma's house would smell like. It smells like a generous and really warm cuddle. Anyway, I'm going to dive in and let you know how it tastes like. It's warm, it's homey, it's nothing spectacular, but it's so well balanced. It's something that just puts a smile on your face. This is just something so nostalgic, different from puff pastry, which will give you a lot more texture, but also a lot fattier. Our short crust, I was able to stretch it quite thin, so you get a lot of filling, but not so much of carb, which in my opinion is healthier and less guilty. Overall, super happy with how this turned out. The shortcrust recipe, we did not need any special machines or just a grater and cold butter that was able to get us an outcome like this. It's really handy, a really good technique, a really good trick to keep that in your back pocket. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope this gives you a bit of a homesickness. I hope you give your grandma, give your mum a call. This is such a humble dish but takes up such a special place right here. If you like the video, give it a like if you want to see more of these budget-friendly recipes with sustainability in mind. I have one of these videos coming out every 2 weeks. Thank you so much. I'm going to get back to this and I'll see you next time.